I was watching this video of this lady called Angie on IG, and she was talking about the way she was walking in Buruburu a few days ago, and some kid riding a bike just came and smacked her behind, and then laughed and rode off a few meters and slapped another lady's behind, and then just rode off completely. She was talking about how this kind of assault has happened to her multiple times when she's just out and about doing her business. It's even happened to her mom. I was watching this video about this lady called Tanya Patni, who was talking about the way she was raped by these guys who dragged her, and they filmed the rape. And I'm like, what kind of world is this we're living in? Humanity is broken. What kind of world is this we're living in?
So, how many of you ladies are laughing as you listen to that clip? And not laughing because it's funny, but because this has been your lived experience, and this guy seems surprised that this is what it means to be a woman. Hello there, and welcome to the Cocoa Butter Junkie podcast. I'm Michelle, and this is my podcast. This is a podcast on the everyday reflections and experiences of a Kenyan woman. It is my examination of life living through mental health issues, grief, growing up, aka kicking and screaming into adulthood, the experiences of being a woman in Kenya, making friends as an adult, struggles with faith, and a bunch of other topics. Thank you for listening. I made an audio clip of this video that I found on Instagram. It was, I think, a really popular video that week. I saw it on Amina Abdirabar's Instagram, so I just thought I'd make an episode of it.
Where did you learn to do this? Like this. Where did you get the guts to even think that you could go and cross that boundary and do what you want with a woman just because you're a man?
I laughed because this has been my life since I can remember. That's right, guys, since I can remember. Not in my teens or when I turned 10 or 11. The first time an adult said something sexual to me, I was walking home from school, nursery school. And I didn't understand it then, but I knew it was wrong and it made me feel dirty.
So the first instance that comes to mind for me was when I was 10 years old. We mostly grew up with my dad, and he's a very social person. So he'd go visiting many people, we'd take us with him. And one group of people that he would visit quite frequently was this group of priests and nuns around where we used to live. And there's one particular priest who used to visit us quite a lot. And I always found this guy creepy, but I never really knew why. So I used to be kind of like an outgoing child, kind of outgoing and shy, kind of the same, kind of in the middle. But when this guy used to come around, I used to kind of like withdraw and just observe and see what's going on. So this one time he came home and I was alone. I was babysitting the neighbor's baby, and so we had like the whole distance of like the carpet between us, and he was like, so your parents home? I'm like, no, they're not home. He's like, where's your sister? I'm like, she's not around. So he's like, come say hi to me. And I'm like, oh God, do I have to? But we have it ingrained in us that we need to respect our elders. So I stood up, carried the baby with me. And he was like, why are you carrying the baby? And I'm like, the baby might fall off the couch. So I walked up to him, and so he held my hand. Have you ever had this instance where you're trying to pull your hand from someone and they're always like, they keep clenching it tighter and tighter and tighter? So that's kind of like what happened. And then like he pulled me in and then kissed my cheek, and it's like, this is how people greet each other, with kisses. And I was confused because my family is not very affectionate. Like, we never used to go out of our way to hug each other, and we definitely were not kissing each other. So I was wondering, like, what's going on here? What's this? And then he puts like his face, like his cheek smack in my face and goes like, you need to kiss me back. So I do, because I don't know what else to do at this point in time. And I'm just holding on to the baby. I'm like, okay, someone needs to come because this situation is just making me so uncomfortable. So I think there was a bit of small talk a bit, then he left. But I was pretty shook and I couldn't understand like why this guy's insisting on this. I kind of suppressed that memory until I think a few years ago when it kind of like just came up and kind of in a very inopportune time. But when he visited next, my parents were home and they were like the full, you know how normally our parents, a lot of the Kenyan culture, how we welcome visitors. So they're like, oh, bring father tea, bring father this. And I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? This guy is such an asshole. And I remember like I was very confused as a child, like how can my parents not see who this guy is? Like how can they not tell what kind of a guy he is? I never told anyone about that situation other than my therapist. Never told my parents. But I always ensured that every time he came to visit that the baby was always in my arms. Like I think me and that baby were glued together for the entirety of my holiday. And I think we were fortunate enough that after that we moved, so I didn't get to see him again. But it's always like a recurring worry for me that he probably used to do that to other children as well. And I haven't encountered him again. Not really sure what I'll do if I did.
So the point of this episode is not to have an intellectual feminist conversation or to bash men. I just want to share experiences that have happened to me and to others just because we are women. I mean, it's 2020 and the least we can do is talk about it and not victim blame or ask, what were you wearing?
Where did you learn to do that? Who taught you that? Who taught you have a right over a woman's body just because you're a man? Where did we learn that?
So this episode will not in any way cover all of the experiences that women go through here in Kenya and all over the world. But we are going to talk about being a woman in Kenya because this is where I've lived my whole life and what I know. So let's talk about womanhood in this country.
So for most men, they don't think, which privilege. So even me, I can be robbed on the road. Yeah, everyone can be robbed on the road, but you as a man, chances are you will not be sexually harassed on the road. You will not have people catcalling you. You will not have people trying to grab your boobs or your ass on the road.
Some of the reasons I wanted to do such an episode was, first of all, to kill the shame that comes with a few experiences that we go through as women. When something happens to you, you feel guilty and dirty and shameful, and you think that it only happened to you because of some reason, because you did something, because you are wearing something, because of something about you that somebody saw, and it makes you feel guilty. So I just wanted for those such things have happened to not feel alone, to not feel isolated, and to just kill the shame that comes with going through such experiences.
This is not easy because I've been fighting this idea of sharing my life experience with another person, and up until now I'm still struggling and I've really been trying to find like an excuse and even fighting every attempt of recording this voice note. But then I stumbled upon a revelation that when things in my life are revealed, freedom follows, because hiding, whether it is shame from sin or hurt or some other reason, causes bondage. And so I choose to be freed from this experience that caused me pain a long time ago. I remember I was just fresh from high school. I was around like maybe early 20s or late, like in my late teens, when I had my first job as a video library lady. And in this kind of a job, I tended to meet a lot of guys who would come to the shop to pick movies. And then there's this particular guy that I never really felt anything for. And at that season of my life, I was in a space where, having come from high school, you're carefree and you just want to go out and have fun. And I remember I was seeing someone at that time, but he was like schooling away from where I was based in. So one of those weekends when I was just bored, I decided to, hook up with this guy that I didn't like at all. And now the funny thing is, as much as I didn't like him, I was more interested about the material bit of him, because this guy was young, he had his business running, he had a nice car. And by the end of that, when we hooked up, by the end of that day, I was able to go to his place and just check out what he had. And I think I was smitten by what he offered. One thing led to another when we started so I remember the first time we went for a date. It was basically just we went out, had drinks. At that time I was still more of a party girl. I used to drink, and at the end of the day he dropped me home where I was staying with my sister. But by the second date, I got excited about always hanging out with him. Like whenever weekend will reach, I would hook up with him. And then he used to say that he'd like to see me drunk, because at that time I had tested myself and I will not get drunk easily. And so there's this one particular evening we went out and we ordered for food and drinks. So when we were having the drinks, I kind of felt like going to the washroom. When I went and I came back, I felt like he'd already poured my drink in the glass, but at that time I think I'd learned to trust him a bit, and I just continue taking that drink. But it was weird that I would normally just get done when I'm having 4 or 6 cans of whatever I used to take that time. But this was just the second time, and I was feeling very tipsy, and I just told him I'm not feeling so fine. And by the time I realized what was happening, I was already I had blacked out or some sort of thing, because I just remember him carrying me to his car and his buddies, they were laughing. And by the next morning, when I woke up, I was in his house, in his bed, and I just had this unbearable pain, and I could not, come to terms with what had happened. And now what got me feeling very regretful was the fact that I knew that something had happened, and I asked him what went down, and was like, acha kujifanya, sijana ulijipa. It was so embarrassing, because I remember that time I was dating someone and had not even gone far in terms of intimacy with this guy. So actually it's I lost my virginity through a rape incident. And what hurts me the most was that after that I felt so shameful. I felt so dirty. And I just said, kama ameshapata, why can't I just let him continue? So imagine after that incident, I still kept on going to this guy's place. It took a while before I was able to just discover that I was in an emotionally draining relationship, because after that time, I will willingly take myself to this guy, and just because I had lost my virginity to him, I felt like he deserved more of my life. But I thank God that after a few months, I just came to terms, and I realized that I was wasting away my young life, and that's how I moved out of that town and came and settled in another town for studies and all of that. And it's so funny that was over 20 years ago, but it still kind of has a hold on me, because from that time I never ever went to a bar to drink again. And not only that, there's a time 10 years ago, I stumbled upon a guy who looks like that guy, and I practically froze. And the friend I was with asked me what's going on. I just told him, no, this guy just reminds me of another guy. And I've never tried to link up with this this perpetrator, or I don't know what to call him. But I think time has just taught me that whenever such things happen, I should not blame myself. And whenever I meet young girls who are dating and maybe who are drinking, I always advise them that they should never trust a guy, especially if they know this is a kind of a guy who's been, just any guy they don't feel safe. They should not trust him, especially with alcohol and stuff like that. So it's 20 years down the line, and I believe I'm healing. Because I once, just as I said when I began this, is that when you reveal something, freedom follows. And I hope that with this revelation, I'll be able to help out a sister and just be able to make them know that bad things do happen to good people, but you make the choice of how to move on from there. If I'd let that bad experience determine the rest of my life, I know I would be in a very bad relationship right now with that guy, because he was not a good guy.
I feel like I'm putting my business out there, but the first time a man touched me inappropriately, I don't think I was even 6 years old. There are some events I remember from my childhood, and this is one of the major ones, and it made me feel like trash. And it's a burden that I have carried with me until recently, more specifically last year when I was able to talk about it. Actually, this didn't happen just once, and I'm sure I've deliberately and unconsciously blocked some incidences, but if I really think about it, the first time somebody called me, I don't think I was even 10 yet. The first few times it happens, it's really puzzling, like, what's happening? And then there's the feeling of being unsafe and guilty. And then it gets worse when they start following you and cussing you out because you didn't respond or didn't give your attention. First of all, you were just minding your business, going wherever you were going. And then some stranger who is most likely bigger and stronger than you starts trying to talk to you in their way. They think they are being nice at first, and then for some reason it turns and becomes insults, and you're like, what's happening?
You and me as a man, we can wake up in the morning or whatever hour, leave the house, go do our business, walk around in town, dress however we want, just do our thing and come back home without fear of sexual harassment or assault or, indecent assault or anything like that happening to us.
Second instance also happened again with a man of the cloth. And this was now a different priest and a different town. And I had just finished high school, so I was 18. And we used to have this small Christian community. So we'd have every week we'd have like prayers, and then we'd have like mass once a month. And we had this priest who was allocated to our small Christian community, and he was a bit younger than the others, and somehow he got our numbers. I don't know how he got my number. I can't remember what the situation was, but he had my number, and he would text me late at night like, oh, I think you're beautiful, oh, I want to kiss you, oh, I think we should be in a relationship. And in my mind, I'm very confused. Like, I've just left high school, and you know how our high school was. Like, we're very closeted. Like, I've found out later on we were very closeted and protected. And so I can't grasp, like, why is this man attracted to me? He's taken a vow of celibacy, so what's he wanting from me? And I remember I shared the messages with my sister, and she's like, you need to block this guy. So I did block him. But I think my discomfort and like his behavior kind of made the other women in the small Christian community like take note. So like whenever he'd be around, the two women would always like put me in between them. So they always ensure that I was never alone or anywhere near this priest. And one of the ladies actually had a talk with my sister, and she was like, when you guys get much older, only when you have kids, make sure that if you have any girls, in fact, even if you have any boys, she was like, make sure that the priests are never alone with your children. Always ensure that there's a boundary between you and them. And that talk kind of always resonated with me, that somebody else took note and realized, okay, this girl is uncomfortable and I need to sit her down and tell her and kind of make her feel safe. So I'm happy for the women for doing that.
Just wondering, ladies, when was the first time somebody told you to watch your drink? When you went out to a club or to a bash, or where there were men you didn't know? I know this is something that many women identify with, feeling unsafe just walking out of your house, thinking about what you will wear and what part of town you will be going to, just because you do not want to be attacked for what you're wearing or to be stripped for no reason.
She leaves the house with earphones on, not because she's enjoying the music. She's leaving with earphones on because she doesn't want to hear men talking about her or catcalling her on the road as she walks about doing her business. She doesn't want to hear guys talking about how she looks. She doesn't want to hear guys, making derogatory comments about the way she's dressed. She doesn't want to hear that kind of shit. She just wants to walk around, do her thing, go home.
If you're a lady, do you remember that time you got into a matatu and it was late in the evening and you realized you were the only woman in that matatu? What did that feel like? Or when you get into a cab, day or night, most likely the cab guy is a man. Do you find yourself making a quick little prayer that he will not harm you? I always find myself sitting at the back and on the left, just in case. You can get command.
Mtu anakushika bottom. Yeah, it's just that they've taken it for granted that it is just normal. Unaingia kama matatu na mtu ndio huyo ako busy na bottom yako na mkono anakushika. Ama kama umekaa kwa matatu, a man insists on spreading his legs, he must touch you and there is a lot of space. So you wonder what his problem is. Ana insist tu kukaa hivi. Go apart all the way mpaka akushike. Inasinya sana.
How many times has that happened to you?
Always, all the time. All the time.
How come you accept?
No, I don't accept. I usually push them go away.
Has somebody ever reacted in a way that you got scared and then you just uliwacha?
No.
Okay. But is that a possibility? Are you afraid that could be a possibility?
Right now at this age, I don't think I'm afraid of anything. Yeah, and nobody can do, especially where there are people. People are my safety. Yeah, I'll shout at him. I'll embarrass him all I can. He should not dare. If I was younger, perhaps I would be afraid.
When you're getting dressed in the morning, do you think about what part of town you'll be going to? Do you think if you'll be in a private vehicle or you'll be a public means of transport? Do you think about how short your skirt or dress can be and what that would mean for how your day will go? Are you thinking about the chances that you will get stripped naked or that random man will grab at you or maybe that older lady who will start advising you on how to dress and tell you that it's your fault if you get raped because of what you're wearing?
And where do men learn that they can have the right over women's bodies and do these sorts of things? Why do men think that women want to be talked to and about this way?
So when I first got to this job, like I moved to a different town, I was completely new here, and I moved really quickly. So the house I was staying in, I wasn't very comfortable. So I was talking to my colleagues. I'm like, so do you guys know where I could move to? I'm looking for a new space. And there's this male colleague who was very helpful, and I was like, okay, people here are very nice. Like I knew he was married, and he knew I knew he was married. So he's like, I can take you to see some houses. And I was like, okay. No one seemed to be objecting to it. And I was like, okay, fine, let's go see some houses. So when he was showing me the houses, he kept making some very weird comments like, you can get this house, then I can come be visiting you over the weekends. And I'm like, why would you be visiting me anywhere? So he showed me a few houses which I didn't like. So then now when we're going back to the office, he puts his hand on my thigh. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on? So he's like, I think you should get a tattoo on your thigh, which can only be for me, and only I would see it. And I'm wondering, you have no claims to my thigh. Why are you dictating whether I should put a tattoo on my thigh for you to see? So I was like, okay, something's not right with this guy. So I started distancing myself from this guy. I didn't report to HR. I was still relatively new and I didn't even know the reporting mechanisms. But I think even if it happened right now, I would probably still not report it because my condition was a bit weird. Yeah, so since then, I always ensure that there's a lot of space between me and him. Like I think minimum distance between me and him that I can get away with is 2 meters. Like true COVID situation, we social distance and we have been doing so for the past 2 years. And I've kind of like just pulled myself apart and just watching, like watchful waiting. I'm sure he probably does that to a lot of other women who have also, like me, similarly to me, not spoken up. So I guess I'm just waiting for the situation where he does mess up and I'll be like, okay, so even that time he did this and this and this. Then I guess I can feel validated and have the backing, which I think is probably a problem.
If you're a guy and you're listening, I just want you today and just for today, talk to the women in your life, your mother, your sisters, your co-workers, your daughter, your neighbors, your grandmother, your wife, your friends. I want you to talk to them about catcalling. Just for today, ask without thinking that they should feel a certain way about it, like they should feel flattered or complimented. Just ask them from the view of wanting to know their feelings about random men catcalling them, insisting that they touch them or shake their hand, or that they walk around the whole time with a smile on your face because apparently, according to some, they would look so much better smiling. And then I want you to put yourself in their shoes just for a few seconds. Imagine a huge, strange man. Yes, I said a man and not a woman. Bigger than you, following you, hurling insults at you because he did not say hi back. You know he can, if he wanted to, in the very least, sexually assault you or kill you just because he can, and he may get away with it. Hey girls, so how many times have you ever had an uninvited man come to sit at your table in a restaurant? A probably half-empty restaurant. They don't even ask you. They just pull up a chair and sit like they know you. And you're left there puzzled. And when you look at the rest of the restaurant, there are plenty of tables. But this random guy just decided that you're a woman and you're alone. He will come and sit at your table.
Think about just being able to go to work and do your job, finish your work and go home. For a man, that's just a given. I'll go to work, I'll hustle, I'll go home.
So you walk into an office and it's a closed office and there is a man in there. Ladies, please let me know the list of things you're making in your head about how you do not want this to turn out. I'm thinking it would go something like, I hope he doesn't katia me. I hope he doesn't say anything inappropriate or sexual. That he is quote unquote good. That he won't stand up and come and touch me or insist that I hug him. That he won't comment on my dressing or on my looks. I just want to do this interview for this position and go, or do whatever I came to this office to do. You thinking that I'm beautiful and that I should be okay and even grateful that you noticed and commented has no bearing on this job or opportunity that I'm looking for.
I'm an engineer by profession, and I run a company that deals with construction stuff, but specifically I specialize on roofing solutions. The construction industry is a male-dominated industry, and I find myself most of the time working around men. It's been an interesting experience, especially when you can sit in a boardroom where everybody is a man and you're a woman, and you sit there, you are supposed to give instructions, and people sometimes don't take you seriously, but you really have to fight your way through, and for people to actually know that you can do exactly what they can do or even better. I had a client who asked for a meeting at his site here in Nairobi in Syokimau, and he asked me to come for a site meeting. So normally this happens a lot. It was nothing new, it was nothing strange. So I do this a lot of times. So I went to site and I met the client with his wife. So we had a chat, we had a discussion. I was able to share the details that they required. And then we started going around the house. We wanted to just check on the different rooms that are there, the functions of the different spaces. And as we were just going round, the wife was at the front, and then I was in the middle, and he was at the back. This guy, I just felt somebody touch my behind. Initially, I thought, okay, maybe it's just a mistake, but it was so weird, and I just brushed it off. I said, maybe I'm overthinking. Then he did it a second time, and now this time his hand rested on my behind for like 2 seconds, and I froze. I was like, oh no, did he just do that? So remember, the wife is at the front and I can't speak up. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. Then I look behind and this guy is acting like he didn't do anything. So I sensed that this was inappropriate. He's touching my behind without even feeling anything, yet the wife is there. So I froze for a moment, and luckily enough, we had finished the discussion, so we were just going around. But all this time, I was so disturbed, and I felt like, should I say something? Should I speak up? And then I just decided, maybe it's just an idiot. Let me just brush it off. So once we were done with the meeting, I was so furious. I was so mad, but I just got into my car and I drove home. So I kept wondering and asking myself, should I call him and ask him why he did what he did? Should I send him a text? But I just decided, let me just let it go, and hopefully it won't happen another time. So the wife requested for another meeting, and this time round I decided now I'm gonna create a relationship with the wife so that I don't have to deal with this guy. Like, I need to call the client, I just talk to the wife. So I was deliberate with creating a relationship with the wife, and we became very good friends. So every time we would have a meeting on site, the wife would be the one who would come, would create a meeting. Then this guy would come later and was like, oh, you guys had a meeting, or you didn't call me. I was, no, I spoke to your wife. So he realized that I was sidelining him and I was trying to like get rid of him, although despite the fact that I need the job, I need the project, I need the job. So I had to work around it. So one time on another site meeting again, the same guy, I found myself in an isolated space in that unfinished building. That time the wife had not arrived and I found him on site. Can you believe this guy just pulled me and he wanted to force me to kiss him? So I slapped him and he's like, why are you rejecting me? I'm like, dude, who told you I'm interested in having anything to do with you? You have a wife, you have a family, I have a family, I have a husband. Why the hell would I be interested or think of even doing anything with you? Then he's like, why are you behaving like you don't know these things? Why do you feel so special? What is it that your husband is giving you that I cannot give you? So we had an exchange and I just had to walk out. I drove off and I told him to find another contractor because I can't deal with idiots like him. He's done this before, I let it go, but now he's trying to force himself onto me and I just had to let it go. So the wife calls me We were supposed to have a meeting. I just told him, I'm sorry, but I just have to let this project go. Please find somebody else. So she didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't want to bring this up with her because it was just going to get ugly. His family might break up. She might have issues with her marriage, and I said it was easier for me to just step out and let that guy be, and I just move on with my life. So I had never thought that I could ever get myself in such a situation, since I have worked with men for so many years, and I'm always able to spot somebody who is trying to show me any advances or any funny advances towards me. So this time, actually, I didn't see, because it was our first meeting. For heaven's sake, who does that on a first meeting? So since then, I'm very careful when I'm organizing for meetings to go to site. I always make sure I have somebody coming with me, or there are people actually who are on site on that time, whether it's a fundi or my foreman or my driver. So that's the way I've come around and tried to protect myself, because I realize I can find myself in very difficult situations.
Think about just being able to go to work and do your job, finish your work and go home. For a man, that's just a given. I'll go to work, I'll hustle, I'll go home.
I'm currently like the highest ranking officer in the region at the moment. And when we walk in with my colleague into any meeting or anything, they would always assume that he's the highest ranking because of his gender, I think. And whenever I make any contribution, they always look to him to validate it. And I find that a bit irritating. And I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to do? Like, I've come for the meeting. You called me for the meeting. So there have been instances of that, and also like where sometimes I'll do some work and like he'd be given credit for the work I've done, which is extremely irritating. But how I take it and how I navigate it, I just say like, I just do the best I can. I do my work, and I leave it at that. Like how you perceive or what preconceptions you have on the position of women in the workplace or the position of women in Kenyan life in general that's your perception. It's not my truth, and it will never be my truth, because I'm going to do me regardless.
I am a statistician, and I am in my 30s. It took me time to know that some things that were happening around me were really sexual harassment, and it took time for me to perhaps talk about them with other people, and I realized many people go through the same thing, especially when it is done in public places and you have no time to react, and people seem to accept it as normal. And when you talk about it, or you react, or you call it out, everyone thinks you're crazy, or you're special, you're feeling special about it. Examples I'd give are like someone you barely know, someone you don't interact with, or an acquaintance just expects you to one day give them sex. Like someone would even go as far as saying, when are you giving me this? And they are referring to your body. Yeah, a part of your body, like your boobs are nice, when are you going to show me, or something like that. Then perhaps some people will laugh about it, sometimes including ladies. I remember one time when I was expectant, I was in a room with a gentleman and a lady. Then this gentleman was like, you look nice. Your pregnancy makes you look nice and sexy. So I wasn't sure of what to say about that. Then the lady laughed, and then she was like, you guys can make a good couple, and perhaps you could enhance this. Like, she was proposing a sexual interaction, and I was pregnant. So it was an awkward situation. I felt very, very bad. I was not able to react. Luckily, when I was pregnant, I could not react a lot to things. I seemed to just avoid many of the things because my mood was flat. I was too tired to react to anything. So that is one of the worst that I've ever experienced. Apart from the like in a matatu, you sit with some gentlemen and they're just leaning too close and into your space. You feel. I used to think it's I'm the one who has a problem or I'm too sensitive, but I talked it out with some ladies and they told me they feel the same. Sometimes as a woman, when you come out with ideas and you seem to be focused, you're the one who thinks that things should run in a particular way and not the status quo, you're labeled. They say you're not being a woman, you're trying to be a man. Just because you came up with the drastic ideas or things people might not agree to immediately. So I have gone through that a lot at the workplace, and mostly I've worked with men, with a few ladies, but mostly men. And sometimes they don't listen. They just at the back of their mind they're talking to a woman. That's all. So the idea is perhaps given, it is either shelved or it is given maybe after many others have been considered. And sometimes it turns out your idea was the correct one. So it's whether it's accepted or not, it makes me think that we put too much energy for our ideas to be implemented. But I hope I'm always hopeful that the future is female, quote unquote. I believe one day things will become better. Yeah, and people will be able to look at us as just human beings. Like we have ideas like anyone else. We have feelings. We have That's something I hope for one day. I'm one person who always thinks that such things like talking about a woman's sexuality, sexual experiences, like perhaps things like body count, or she has slept with this one, she has slept with that one, so she should be embarrassed and her life should end. She should not take a leadership position because she has a relationship with so and so, she slept with so and so. I hope one day we'll get to a point where sex is not a headline story. Like whether you have sex or not, it's not a headline story. A situation where, like, if someone shared your nudes, it wouldn't be a story. Like everyone has seen nudes, everyone has seen a naked body. Like it becomes just normal. Women are the ones who suffer more on such cases. I've never heard of a man who lost their job because their nudes came out. So I'm just hoping that the future is going to be a good environment for us and our daughters and sons equally.
Can you imagine going through that kind of environment? First of all, your job is really stressful. Mtu mwingine anakuongezea stress zingine za ujinga. Can you think about how that would make you feel?
If you were to look at women's success, there's always this question: is it possible to succeed for any woman without sleeping your way to the top? What about those women who have bosses who won't in any way let them go up the ranks without any sexual favors? Lecturers who won't give female student grades they deserve because they're female? Or thesis supervisors who won't help female students in universities just because they're female? And at the end of the day, there'll always be that one person, man or woman, who will blame the victim.
I love being a woman. I do. It's convenient until a certain point. I guess you can't, in this society, you can't be single, have a career in your 30s, but not married. That's difficult because now the pressure is whenever you get into a potential of a relationship, you always think, this could be my next husband. Do I like how he is? Do I want to be with him? Can I not be with him? You're getting older every day.
Are they gonna accept me and the way I am? My independence, my strength, my being an expert in my field, my wanting to be a leader in my field. Are they gonna accept it? Will they want to change it? Am I too much? Am I going to be able to love him? See, I want to be like my mom. She's strong. She has a career. She's a working mom, and she has 5 kids. That's what I want. Beautiful home, but being able to be myself, being able to go to the careers that I want to change it. I want to have children. I want to watch them grow up, but I also want to be myself and see how far this career can be. And I want to do both. I don't want to choose any, but thing is, career is not very easy. I've had some people, we met on a date once, and once they found out what I was doing, one never called back actually, which is weird. So you always have that fear at the back of your mind, so you don't want to show yourself. There's a time I was traveling to Isiolo with 2 of my interns, and sorry, 3 of them. So 2 of them were ladies, and one of them was a gent. So we happened to go and look for a drink in the evening, yeah. So I was trying to demonstrate something to the ladies. So I told them, don't tell them what you do. Don't tell them you're a potential QS or anything. Just tell them. So we said, we want to start a business in Isiolo. So we came for a reconnaissance or something like that. So one of the gentlemen who wanted to talk to us asked, what do you do? We're business ladies. We're trying to see what could be a good business in this town. So we're thinking of maybe starting a salon or a shop or something. So we're still trying to see what would work in this town. And immediately this guy was very comfortable because we didn't present something to be figured out. It's normal, it's business and stuff. And we had the nicest time. We talked and he was very willing to know more about ourselves. Actually, it was a very, very nice date. Thing is, the basis of that was not very genuine. But I wanted to see the difference because I had the experience of someone not talking to me just because of what I do, and where someone doesn't really know what you do, but you don't present a threat. I guess that was I don't know. It was very worrying. But being single is not a problem to me. Okay, it is a bit, but it seems to be everyone else's biggest problem. So the day I was in church, so I'm part of a choir. So we're sitting there, and then one of the church members decides to announce that he's getting married. He wants to introduce his fiancée. And I could see the lady was very uncomfortable because the man is very eccentric. He's very loud and very, but you could tell because we were almost the same age. You could tell she was like, yeah, it's time. We need to get married. But she wasn't really too happy about the partner she had chosen for herself. Aside from that, after the church, we're happy for her. We clap and everything. So after we leave, one of the ladies in church follows me. It's like, you see, this is what people are supposed to be doing. Supposed to be announcing things like that. We're waiting for you. When is yours happening? She hadn't taken the time to find out what is my experience, what could be what it is. She assumed I had sat and decided not to look for a partner and that I was okay with my not having a partner and whatever. And that I should stop whatever I am doing to not get a partner. And she proceeded to go and tell my mom that this is what she needs to do. Tell her to hurry up. It's almost like you're not complete just because you don't have someone by your side. But what I didn't tell them is I need someone who can support me. And because I'm very fragile in my being, because I am strong, but I know when things are very frustrating, I could change my resolve on something. And I want to get a partner who would not need to change me for anything, but accept me as I am. And that would build this thing together. And that's not a very easy trait to get, because people come with their own ideals of what other people need to be. And I'm also guilty of that. So sometimes you don't get to know the person for who they are, but what you'd like them to be. Another experience that showed me being a girl was difficult. So we were building our church, and I'm a QS, so I could offer the services of getting them the costs, drawing up the contract, telling them exactly which materials they would need to do and how to phase them out, what money they need at this time to get to this level. So yeah, that's what I do every day, so it's fine. But I noticed I went to one or two meetings, gave them all they needed to have. When they asked questions, I answered and whatever. I could see it was very uncomfortable for some men and women that they were listening to this particularly younger girl. I don't know why. So I noticed there's a day my dad called, because my dad is an engineer and who is also the chairman for one of the groups. So he called me. He's like, I'm in a traffic jam, so please just go ahead to the meeting. I'm gonna catch up. But you see, I didn't know about the meeting because no one had bothered to tell me about the meeting. So I asked him, "Oh, which meeting is this?" "Oh, it's a development committee. We're supposed to meet today, remember?" So it turns out someone sent messages, but they didn't send it to me. Because I think the only way they were trusting what I was saying is if my dad repeated it to them. It's almost like just because it came from me, who's significantly younger. And I didn't want to think about it, but maybe because I was a girl also. Because when he repeated exactly the same thing I said, they were convinced. And sometimes they were more comfortable with him being in the meeting than me being in the meeting. So slowly I got out of it. If they needed any info, any contracts, any everything, I provided it. But also wasn't comfortable being somewhere I'm not wanted. Because I always fight at work and in my work and everything else. I didn't want to have to fight in church. Somewhere I felt very comfortable, very safe. So I thought I'd give you the information. I don't have to be in your space. But I do regret that part, because who is anyone to tell you not to take up space? You should be unapologetic about it. But I also helped, so maybe the end justifies the means.
And yeah, a woman in the society. Yeah, the common topic is on marriage or relationship. Being asked of why you're not in a relationship, who's your partner, who's the right guy, why did you break up with this guy, blah blah blah. Why are you not married? Why did you not walk down the aisle? Blah blah blah. Such stories. I'm one person who sat down and thought about marriage. In some instances, I've made decisions or not made decisions because I weighed myself and thought of what I want in life. And I almost believe that people should get married or get into relationships or partnerships or situations for the right reasons. And those reasons should be because of what they feel about it and what it has to relate to them, not because of anyone else. There's a time I thought about, actually, I was in a relationship and I was talking to this guy and we were talking about a wedding, like wedding dress, ring, wedding venue, like discussing a wedding. And at that time, I had not really known this guy. And then after that, I went and sat down and I realized I was not in a relationship with the guy. I was just thinking of I love weddings. I was thinking about a wedding. So it never ended well. Actually, it was a less than 2 months relationship. I did not not really, he wasn't a bad guy, but I did not feel anything about the relationship, but I really fantasized about a wedding with this guy. So, and I'm glad I made the right decision, and I think I took time. I took time to think, like, alone and not to be overwhelmed by fantasies. So I feel that marriage is not for everyone. It seems very beautiful, and I know some people can say it's very beautiful, but people should get into it for the right reasons. And the pressure we get sometimes is too high, and you might be tempted to make a decision because your family, the society, even your work, like everyone is married wherever you're working, then you get the pressure of also getting married. And I also hope that one day people will be doing things for the right reasons, and people should not be people should understand that people who are single and they're not married, people who are single mothers, people who are divorced, it doesn't always work. And sometimes it's our fault, sometimes it's the other person's fault. It is normal. I guess it's normal. And society should just leave people to live their lives and be happy, comfortable, yeah, and make their choices for themselves, not for anyone else.
I remember just a few months ago, I had a patient in the ICU. So I'm the ICU doctor, and the patient comes with his father-in-law, and the father-in-law is from Isiolo. So he looks at me point blank because I'm a small chick, and he looks at me and he's like, "Are you the ICU doctor?" I'm like, "Yeah." Then he's like, "You know what? I mean, where I come from, someone like you can't even be allowed to be an ICU doctor. I mean, look at you. You're so small and you looked so young and you're a woman. You know, women," he made such a, I couldn't believe I was hearing what I was hearing. He actually just literally point blank told me that he doesn't believe I can be what I am because I'm a woman, period. And because I'm young. So these are things that when you go through, such a thing would have made me really mad a couple of years ago. I would have been over the roof. But in this case, I was just like, you know what? Sorry for you. That's what you're getting. I'm the one you're getting. So if you have a choice, you can always look for the other choice. I mean, there are many ICUs in Nairobi with men running them. So you can go there as well.
My mom is very strong. And she's the strongest person I know. And she recently told me a story when she was in high school. Kitambo, they used to have this thing of you go to Form 4 and then you go to Form 6. But you can change schools in between. So when you reach Form 4, then you can choose, do you want to go to a science school or an art school? So she was in this high school where they used to do science and she loved it. She was really good at it. But then when it reached Form 4, she tells me her mom, her dad, and her uncle decided that she needed to go to this other school. It's a very nice reputation and stuff like that, but it's an art school. But she wanted to concentrate on the science school. And she proceeded to tell me her uncle was very powerful. He could even influence the principal or anyone to actually influence what choice they made. But the principal really loved, like, she's not going because she's very good. She doesn't need to go to another school. She has to continue in my school. She's good at sciences, so why not? But this other principal, who was from this school where it was an art school, had been instructed to choose her. So she, in the end, they didn't arrive at a decision, so therefore she got 2 letters. But in the end, the mom, the uncle, and the dad decided that she had to go to the art school against her will, and she really, really regretted that. And this is what makes me appreciate my upbringing. I was never told to choose one or the other. I could do whatever I wanted, within limits, of course. But I love sciences. I love science, but I also love art. So the fact that I get to explore both worlds makes me feel very lucky that I could take the path I wanted. So right now I'm a quantity surveyor. Very technical, not many girls in this industry. And I don't know how that makes me feel. I've always been proud of it, but throughout the years, I think I've met people who don't see the big deal or don't see why I have to highlight me being a girl or not. It's interesting.
If you're a female driver, have you noticed that even people you know can't drive want to instruct you on how to back your car out of the parking just because you're a woman? If you take your time at a junction when you want to join a highway, it's because you're a lesser driver somehow because you're a woman. Even women do this. We say, wachana na yeye ni mwanamke ama ni mama.
And then I don't know if women we are degraded or what. It's like we don't drive. It's like we don't have eyes. It's like we don't know how to drive or to turn or to do what.
Yeah,
a man automatically it's just showing you direction. Mama kuja, mama enda hivi.
Hata parking boys.
Or even if they see you driving, they must comment. Mama ndio ana drive, ni mama. Mama hebu fanya hivi. Mama leo sijui. They must comment.
And where do men learn that they can have the right over women's bodies and do these sorts of things? You know, why do men think that women want to be talked to and about this way?
So there's this guy who comes and sits next to you in the matatu. How does he sit? And then when he insists on talking to you, and before he starts, you can just see the wheels turning in his mind and you know it's coming. He's going to insist on talking to you. And now you have to decide whether to be nice so that he doesn't insult you. But then you're thinking he might mistake that niceness for interest.
So hapa nje behind our building kwa my kitchen balcony kuna some demolitions going on for some temporary structures. So this one is was seated there. When I'm there when I'm unhanging my clothes, they kept on catcalling na kunisumbua. So I decided kufungua mlango ya balcony into my kitchen, and then I just shouted, "Babe, kuja hapa uone watu wananisumbua." And all the men ran away, some of them falling over on those scaffolding things they were demolishing.
Because let me tell you, man, I would hate to live in a world where I couldn't wake up and go and jog at 5 or 6 in the morning or in the evening because some guy might try to grope me or rape me. I wouldn't want to live in a world where I can't just go out and club because I'm scared someone might spike my drinks and try to sexually assault me. I wouldn't want to live in a world where I can't just work in the office the way I want to because my boss is hitting on me and is threatening to fire me because I've refused their sexual advances. I wouldn't want to live in a world where I just can't be myself. I can't just live freely because somebody has created an environment where I feel unsafe and insecure, and it's not any of my fault. Can you imagine how crazy it is to live in such a world?
It is so prevalent that it's really sad that this is happening in Kenya right now. But the more we speak up, the more these things are going to be heard, and then we probably may hopefully raise a generation that will learn how to appreciate women and accept women the way we are.
So, of course, this episode does not cover all the things that it means to be a woman. There are negatives and there are positives. I don't know what your opinion is. If any of these stories resonate with you, please get in contact with me. Send me a voice message on anchor.fm/kokobata-junkie. DM me on Instagram or on Facebook. The handle is @kokobata-junkie.
To all women out there, I'm with you. Love yourself, love your bodies, love who you are, learn who you are, and live with who you are. Because at the end of the day, there really isn't any other choice, is there? There's only one you.
I will link the full clip that I got from Instagram in the show notes. You can check it out, and you can check out the other 2 videos that are being talked about. This week, I am loving I Know This Much Is True. So far, I've only watched 4 episodes. It's a TV series on mental health. If you love any other TV series or movies that talk about mental health, please let me know. You can always get in contact with me via my socials. I didn't even know how to structure this episode. It feels so incomplete and it feels like there is so much more to talk about. But I just wanted to talk about people's experiences without intellectualizing it or maybe providing solutions. Maybe we will do another episode on solutions and the way forward. But for today, if you have gone through any of the experiences you've had today, just know that you are not alone. That speaking about it helps to break the shame that comes with any of these experiences. You can talk about it with a professional or with somebody you trust. Just know that speaking about it will in some way help to start your healing process and will help to break the shame. If you would like to talk more about any of these issues, you can always get in contact with me on my social media. I'm always happy to talk. And if you would like to just talk about it without being on the podcast, I'm also here for you. So I'm just going to end the podcast here. Thank you for listening and see you on the next one.